Okay, so squared numbers and square roots. So if I say 3 squared, that means make a square, kind of like this one, with side lengths of 3. So notice it's 3 tall and 3 wide. Um, so and also 3 squared means to multiply a number by itself. So 3 squared can be written as, and it's finding the area, I should say. Find the area. So if we think about this square, how many units are in this square? So we can find that by multiplying the length times the width, or in this case, it's the same number, so 3 times 3, which equals 9. And that gives you the area of 9. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you would need 9 units, or I like to think about it as like starbursts. So if I had starbursts and I wanted to make a square with starbursts 3 tall and 3 wide, I would need 9 starbursts to make 3 squared. So 3 squared multiply by itself, or times itself. Okay, so 3 times 3 we know is 9. You can also write it, can also be written as 3 squared. Notice that 2, it's called an exponent. And notice it's up higher. It's not written as, and on the computer you'll see it written kind of as this, 3 squared. Notice it's up higher than the 3. So it's called a superscript if you know much about computers. And it tells you how many times you are going to multiply the number times itself. So since it says 3 squared and it's a 2 as the power, you would have to have 2 3s. Notice there are 2 of them. So it'd be 3 times 3, a number times itself. Okay, so really this is just finding our area of our square. So if I wanted to square 2, I would make it 2 tall and 2 wide. So I could do 2 times 2, or remember that's the same thing as 2 squared, because there are 2 2's. And again, when you square a number or when you square 2, you're just finding how many squares. So in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one would have 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this one, if we did 5 squared, or 5 times itself, or 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. So if you counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So it would be 25. You can also see it as x times x or x squared. Just keep in mind that's for any number. Okay? All right, now, on my computer, these are in color, but this is just a multiplication chart. If you think about a multiplication chart, sorry, I'm trying to find my green highlighter. If you think about a multiplication chart, oops, those moved over. But if we look at 5 times 5, which is what we just found, 5 times 5 is 25. 9 times 9 is 81. So these are called perfect squares, and I'm going to write that out. So, perfect squares. Is a whole number multiplied times itself. And this was the area. Okay? So 25 is a perfect square because 5 times 5, or 5 squared, is 25. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out what 4 squared, 8 squared, and 0 squared are. So pause the video and see if you can find those. And I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. So 4 squared, or 4 times 4, is 16. 8 times 8, or 8 squared, is 64. 0 squared, or 0 times 0, is 0. Okay, and I know this is not going to be the best, but if you look at this, this is how you type them in a calculator. So if you're on your computer and you open the calculator, you're going to type in your number. So let's do 8. So I would type 8, and then I would hit this squared button. And that would do 8 squared, which is 64. Ignore all of this. But if you were on an Android phone, you would do, again, 8. And then see this little button right there, or that symbol, which is a caret? You would hit 8 caret 2, and it will give you the answer. So it's just saying like that the 2 is up higher. Like it's kind of like a little arrow saying up higher. And of course, Androids might have changed. I just took a screenshot of an Android phone, but they do use that little symbol right there. This one, if you're on an iPhone, just hit that, like turn your screen, and then the larger options will pop up. Okay, now let's look at negative numbers. So if we do negative numbers, so I want to show you something. So if I have that, and I have that, this one is like saying I have negative 3. Notice it's in parentheses, so I have negative 3 2 times, because remember that exponent tells us we have 2 of them. This one is saying that I have 3 and that there is a negative out front. So this negative is just out front. Notice this one has parentheses, so it's saying that you have to square all of that, including the negative. This one, you have to square the 3 and then take the negative. So remember, find a different color. A negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a negative gives you a positive. This one, and it's also order of operations. If you think about PEMDAS, the E is exponent. Oops. Exponent. So you have to do the exponent first and then multiply. So we have to do 3 times 3 first. 3 times 3 is 9. And then multiply by the negative. Okay. Again, if you were doing this in the calculator, you would have to pay attention and make sure that you squared the negative 3. All right. Now, the next thing is square roots. And they are the opposite of squared. So we use this symbol right here. It's also called a radical. And it means find the square root of the number written under the radical. So you'll have a number that's right there. You'll have a number and you're going to find the square root of it. So, for example, if we have the square root of 16, and we read that as square root of 16. Sorry, I know today's a lot of writing, but it's that whole vocabulary when we start something new. You're find the number that was multiplied by itself to give the perfect square. Or if you're thinking about area, it's what is the side length of a square with 16 as the area. So if I have 16 starbursts, that was a terrible square. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if I know that I have 16 units or 16 of these squares, what is the side length? So the square root of 16 equals 4. Since 4 times 4 equals 16. Or because this side length. Okay, and I'm going to put these up here. So pause your video and try to find the following. What is the square root of 9? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And again, I want you to pause the video and then I'm going to give the answer in just a second. 3, 2, 1. So the square root of 9 is 3 because if you had 9 squares, the side length would be 3. Okay, 49. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be 7. And just make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Okay, 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be your answer. Most of the time, you're not going to be given these boxes. They're just going to say, what is the square root of 9? It would be 3. Square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 25 is 5. Another way to do that is if you look at your multiplication chart or any multiplication chart and you look for what is the square root of 9, you're looking for the perfect square, and it would be 3. Square root of 49 would be 7. Square root of 25 is 5. So you can look at a multiplication chart and it's those numbers that go diagonally across because it's the number times itself. Okay, again, you can use the calculator on the computer. You would have to type the number. So if I was doing 25, I would have to type 25. And then you would want to hit this button right here, calculator or iPhone. It has a 2 square root of x. This is just called an index. It's just making sure that you know that there's a 2. This one right next to it has a 3. We will get to that later, not in this video. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that it's the one with the 2. Because remember, it's the opposite of a squared. Okay, if you're on an Android, if Androids still look like this, I just found a screenshot last night, you would hit this button, which it looks like a check mark. It's actually just the beginning of this square root. So you would hit that button and then you would hit 25. Okay, I do want you to write these in your notebook. So you can just pause the video here so that it doesn't end and turn black. But I want you to just write these down. So 0 times 0, 1 times 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 7, 49, 8 times 8, 9 times 9, 10 times 10, 11 times 11, 12 times 12. This one is if you're taking the square root of 16, it's 4, square root of 25 is 5, square root of 64 is 8. Okay, so I do want you to pause the video and write those in your notebook. That way you have them to look at anytime you need to. So again, if you're finding squares, like if you're squaring 3, 3 times 3 is 9. If you're finding the square root, it's going backwards. It's the opposite. So it's like you were given 25 and you were trying to find what number multiplied times itself. So that is squares and square roots.